How does an organism maintain homeostasis? Do now. Describe what it means to give someone feedback. Hopefully you responded. When giving someone feedback, you're telling them what they're doing correct and what they need to improve on. The ability to carry on life processes to allow a living thing to maintain dynamic equilibrium or homeostasis with their surroundings. Remember from Unit 2, we talked about the idea of osmosis. We'll see here this is one way dynamic equilibrium is maintained in all living things. Homeostasis is the state of balance. This means that an individual organism is healthy. Homeostasis in an organism is constantly threatened. Failure to respond effectively to a failure of homeostasis can result in either disease or in death. An example of maintaining homeostasis is blood glucose levels. They must be regulated by the endocrine system through the production of insulin. So if you look at the diagram, you'll see high blood glucose levels will stimulate the pancreas to release insulin. That insulin is then used to achieve normal blood glucose levels. Feedback mechanisms, as the one depicted here, help keep the dynamic equilibrium or homeostasis resulting from the ability of the organism to detect and respond to stimulus. Feedback mechanisms are specific ways which have evolved in different living things to respond to internal or external environmental changes and maintain homeostasis. A feedback mechanism is a process where the level of one substance or activity of an organ or structure influences another substance or structure in some manner. Feedback can be positive or negative. Some feedback mechanisms or loops are positive because they enhance or amplify changes. Some feedback loops are negative because they dampen or buffer changes. Childbirth is an example of positive feedback. We'll see that the head of the fetus pushes against the cervix. Nerve impulses are transmitted to the brain. The brain stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete a hormone that is carried to the bloodstream to the uterus and then actually causes a greater contraction, which causes more pushing on the cervix. So this is a positive feedback loop because it intensifies the reaction of the body. Blood glucose levels we saw was an example of negative feedback because this shuts itself off. Heart rate is another example. An example of the feedback mechanisms in human would be the increase in heart rate and respiration rate, which occur in response to increased exercise or other increased muscle activity. So again, it's about the body responding to a stimulus. They have some sort of sensor, it goes to an organ, and then there's some sort of effect on the body to keep it in balance. Plants and homeostasis. Plants need to regulate water loss and carbon dioxide intake for photosynthesis and other life activities. When plants do not keep enough water in their cells, they wilt and die. As a reminder of what photosynthesis is, take a look at the diagram on the right. We'll see that light energy along with water and carbon dioxide is necessary to make the sugar or glucose in the chloroplast. Feedback mechanisms in plants. Stomates, a microscopic hole in the plant leaf which allows gases to enter and leave and water vapor to leave as well. Stomata is the plural of stomate. Guard cells are going to open and close the stomate. The ability of the guard cell to close during periods of limited water availability for the plant allows the plant to maintain water homeostasis. So if the stomate is closed, water is not evaporating and therefore the plant is conserving the water that they have. As a summary, I want you to draw a feedback loop on your paper. You can either do one for plants to show the gas exchange or loss of water through the stomates, or for humans, regulation of temperature by either shivering to warm up or sweating to cool down. Step 1, think about what is the stimulus to cause homeostasis to be affected. Step 2, think about how the organism reacts to this stimulus. Step 3, what is the output on the whole system? And step 4, think about, is this feedback reinforced, positive? Does it grow with intensity? Or is it turned off with negative feedback?